What's up, War Room Nation? Welcome to another episode of MMA in the War Room, brought to you by War Room Sports. This is Jimmy, and alongside I have my co-host on the show, Tommy Como from High Voltage MMA. How are you, Tommy?
Hey, Jimmy, I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. We're going to break down the UFC 159 card. We're just going to do the top 3 fights of this card and briefly go over our predictions for this card. So, without further ado, let's just jump right into it. The first fight I want to talk about is one Roy Nelson versus Cheick Kongo. As usual, how do you see this fight going? What is your prediction and why?
Okay, well, to start with, it's kind of tough for me to discuss a Roy Nelson fight without grinning from ear to ear because he's a comical, entertaining type of guy. I mean, the gut in and of itself is pretty funny, but then the mullet haircut, too. I don't know how he does it, but he's definitely...
He's an entertainer.
He's got some inner self-confidence or something. I don't know what he's got going on, but, you know, so the way I see this one going down, despite the fact that he's the jiu-jitsu guy in this fight, technically, if you look at their backgrounds, and Cheick Kongo is supposedly the kickboxer, the French kickboxer, I think that Roy Nelson will probably outstrike Cheick and end up possibly TKOing him maybe in the second round, if not winning a decision just by outpointing him. Kongo, for a kickboxer, his chin really isn't the strongest, and he does some odd things because he's definitely got some physical gifts. He's super athletic. You look at him, he's just shredded from top to bottom. He's obviously, you know, like I said, got some physical gifts and some strengths working in his favor. But I guess it's his fight IQ maybe, or there are sometimes when he makes decisions that I think are weird. You know, if I had his skill set, I'd probably want to use my jab and my leg kicks and keep the distance at times, but he likes to invite people in to close quarters and striking, which is kind of weird to me based on, you know, his build and his reach advantage against most people, which doesn't seem to be where his strengths would lie. So, but, you know, that comes down to the whole fight IQ thing and strategy type deal. And Roy Nelson, excellent grappler. He's also got very, very heavy hands. So I think that he has the tools to see what
and I agree with you in terms of this fight. Cheick Kongo is polarizing fighter because it seems like every time you count him out, he gets a win that you probably think that he shouldn't have got.
Sure.
But at the same time, you know, being a heavyweight and having a questionable chin, that never works out well. Yeah. Especially when you're fighting someone like Roy Nelson who has strong hands. And you know, I was like, you know, getting ready to do this preview show, so I'm just looking at some data, and I'm like, I was looking at how Roy Nelson is ranked as a top 10 heavyweight, and this is all over the place. Whether you're looking at ShareDog or Yahoo, wherever you look at, he's ranked in the top 10, but he doesn't have any wins against anyone in the top 10.
Right.
And if you look at his wins, Roy Nelson has some questionable wins. Like he beats guys that he probably should beat anyway. But with that being said, I think that he has something to prove this fight. And I also have him winning by a TKO. For the reasons I just mentioned, I think he definitely has to get a big win. And even though we talk about Cheick Kongo having a suspect chin because of how well-conditioned of an athlete he is, he's still very competitive, and he's still a name in this sport. So this could be a big win for Roy Nelson, and I actually have him winning by TKO.
If you look at his last 2 fights, he won them both with explosive knockouts. If you watch his knockout against Matt Mitrione, you see that Roy Nelson's got some explosive power. He really does. He's got great hands. I don't know about in terms of technical skill, hands-wise, but he certainly packs some power in his punches, those big punches, maybe because he's got all that mullet behind them. I'm not sure. But if you combine that with Cheick Kongo's potentially suspect chin, or he's at least he's certainly not as durable as Roy Nelson is. So
yeah, absolutely.
If it turns into a war and they're trading punches, I don't really see any way in which Cheick can come out on top on this one. I guess the only way I could see that happening is if maybe he fought a really strategic fight and outpointed Roy because
I think he has better cardio as well.
Yeah, say he used his strikes and he was circling to keep Roy away and used in his jab and his teeps and his leg kicks to keep the distance. And
since when has he done that, though?
Right. So that's exactly the thing. Like, it goes back to that fight IQ thing. I don't think he's going to do that. I think that's the only way he could potentially.
Yeah. So it looks like.
But I don't think he'll do that.
It looks like we're on the same page. We both have Roy Nelson winning by a TKO. So let's just move on to the next fight,
All right.
which is Michael Bisping versus Alan Belcher. First off, the first thing I want to say about this fight, and I'll go first this time, is I just love when Alan Belcher fights because I think he has the greatest nickname in all of combat sports. Alan the Talent Belcher, the talent. That's hilarious to me. With that being said, though, when I look at this fight, I think that both guys are probably even when it comes to striking. But I think that I have Bisping winning this fight, probably by a decision. Yeah, I have Bisping winning by a decision. I think that on the ground he would have the advantage. When it comes to striking, to me they're about even. I really can't call who I would consider, the more dominant striker. But I think Bisping is smart, and he knows that he has to get him to the ground to try to win this fight. Again, still love the nickname Alan the Talent Belcher. But Tommy, how do you see this fight going?
Yeah, I think I'd have to overall agree with you. I think Bisping will take probably a decision victory. Bisping, it's kind of frustrating, man. He's like the perennial challenger, but he just can't quite get over the hump.
Over the hump. Yeah, I agree.
And Dana would love to have him hold the belt so that he could tap into that UK market even more and have the great British champion and play that whole thing up just like he pushes certain Hispanic fighters. It's the same deal. I mean, Dana's a smart guy. He's an incredible businessman, and I think Bisping is at the forefront of his push into the UK market. So Bisping, I think, has gotten way more chances than he probably really truly deserves, just based on his own merit. It's just that he's British, and there's people over there that want to pay money.
He's a great fighter, though. But you're absolutely right.
He's not elite.
He just can't get to that next level. He's like here, and he just can't get to the next level. He's like Nate Marquardt was at some point. The guy's a great fighter, but he just can't get to that elite level.
He's not elite. If he wasn't British, there's no way he'd be getting as many opportunities as he's been given. So, with that being said, I still think that he takes this one. I think both of these guys are kind of in a position where they can only kind of go so high.
At the end of the day, Tommy, who do you have in the Bisping versus Belcher? Do you agree? Do you have Bisping by decision the same way I do?
I do. I think Bisping's going to take a decision. I just don't see really any way that Belcher can take this one. I think Bisping, he does have some strengths that he's bringing to the table. His striking is pretty decent, and he does have a kickboxing background, so his striking's not terrible. He just doesn't pack, some of the crazy power that some of the elite 185ers do. But his cardio is fantastic. His cardio is excellent.
He definitely has a great cardio. It's one of the things that Bisping is known for. So I personally have him in a decision in this fight.
Right, and he's aggressive.
Okay. So, well, we both have Bisping in a decision. We both have, Roy Big Country Nelson by TKO. Let's see if we agree on this match. And something tells me we will. Let's talk about Chael Sonnen versus Johnny Bones Jones. And, Tommy, I'll let you start this one off. How do you see this fight going?
I just don't see any scenario in which Chael has the ability to win this fight. I can't make it any more simple than that. I think John Bones Jones just has far too many tools. I think that the only reason Chael is somehow magically fighting for the 205-pound title, coming off of losses in another division, is interesting, and it's only because of his unique marketing ability. The guy is able to speak to the masses, and he's able to promote the hell out of these fights, and he gets people into it. He can speak.
Listen,
he's like a WWE superstar or some shit.
In my opinion, Chael Sonnen, or as he calls himself, the American Gangster, should be calling himself Chael Sonnen, the Ultimate Hustler, because this guy somehow is fought for the title at 185 and lost. I mean, his biggest accomplishment is a fight that he lost. And when you look, he has a total of 12 losses, and in the UFC, his record is 6-5. Yet somehow he gets a title shot against a guy, in my opinion, who is in his prime. I don't see anyone beating him anytime soon. It's a complete mismatch. The reason that Chael went and fought at 185 is because he couldn't handle the bigger guys at 205, and now he's fighting the best of the best. You made all the great points about how he sells fights. I mean, the guy is a complete salesman, and he's very, very entertaining. I'm not going to lie. I laugh when watching him talk. And he does sell fights, and he sells pay-per-view tickets. But in terms of talent and skill, I think that he's clearly outmatched. I don't see any way he can win this fight. Any way at all. I just don't. I just don't see how he can win this fight. I mean, I was going to say maybe he takes a GSP method and just grabs the guy and lays there, but I don't even see him having the ability to do that with someone, with an athlete like Johnny Bones Jones. Because the thing about Johnny Bones Jones is that he is a complete athlete in MMA. You see a lot of guys who are technically great in MMA, but they're just nowhere near the athlete that Johnny Bones Jones is. So I don't see any way that he can win this match, and I have Johnny Bones Jones. I'm gonna take him by submission in this match.
Okay, that's interesting. And I think aren't both of his brothers in the NFL or something like that? I mean,
yes, he has two brothers in the NFL. I mean,
yeah. So I mean, these are family athletes. He went a different path in terms of his athletic pursuits. I think Chael does have a remote chance at winning. I really do. But the only way he's going to be able to do it is if he's able to somehow manage a takedown and be able to really bludgeon Jones, and just because Chael does have a really good top game. If he can get you down, his top game's pretty strong. He can rain down punches and elbows from top.
Until he gets caught in a submission.
Right. And the thing is, people look at the Anderson Silva fight and they're like, Chael's the real deal. Look how he almost beat Anderson Silva until he got caught in a submission. But Anderson Silva had like a broken rib in like the first or second round. So, I mean, people don't realize when you sustain an injury like that, it's going to, change the entire course of the fight. I mean, that's something pretty difficult to deal with. So I think if Anderson Silva were completely healthy during their fight, he would have finished him a lot earlier, and he probably would have finished him with strikes. But,
like
barring some type of...
You mean like he did the next time?
Right, exactly. So, well, that was crazy, too, when you saw him throw that horribly awkward-looking spinning back elbow or whatever that he threw. And then
I don't know what that was,
No, that was unfortunate is what that was. But, I don't know. If, anything's possible, maybe he gets him... Maybe he grounds and pounds him out. We haven't seen John Jones under a ton of pressure from the bottom because no one really has had the ability to put him there.
Do you think that? Do you honestly think that his wrestling is of the caliber that he can do that? I mean, who do you think is a better wrestler? Do you think Chael Sonnen is a better wrestler than Rashad Evans?
No, I don't think he's a better pure wrestler than Rashad Evans. Rashad Evans was a D1 collegiate All-American, if I'm not mistaken. He was at Michigan State.
He definitely was at Michigan State,
So
and he couldn't even get the guy in the crest. This is what I'm saying.
Right.
Like, Jones' athletic ability, it kind of prevented Rashad from ever doing anything in order to get close to even bring him down. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. This guy is just a superior athlete, and I think he's in his prime right now. And like you mentioned, if not for the fact that this guy can sell fights, he wouldn't even be in this fight.
No, I don't think so. I think the whole reason this fight was set up is because Dana wanted them to coach alongside one another on top. And so they did that, and it didn't really turn out to be all that dramatic. I'm sure Dana was probably somewhat disappointed because instead of fighting and instead of playing in Chael's game and getting all worked up on the show and F-bombs are flying and they're yelling at each other on the show, he kept it pretty cool. John Jones did. John Jones is kind of, oh, hey, I'm keeping it respectful, kind of ignoring him, kind of just not really treating him like he's all that much of a threat to him. So,
and that's a great point, because I watched this season and I really just, it wasn't what I thought. I thought it was going to be entertaining, sort of like there was one, who was it, Rashad, and who was Rashad on there with, and it was just completely entertaining. Rampage. That was funny to me. This wasn't, this wasn't that.
Yeah, with Rampage,
it was,
exactly.
A lot tame,
Rampage
like you
was
said.
punching doors, punching through doors.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of. I was looking for that, but that didn't happen.
I was going to say, I think we pretty much agree on the outcome.
Yeah, we definitely agree on the outcome of all these fights, and I don't see any surprises. You never know with MMA, but for the most part, we agree. We have Nelson by TKO, Bisping by decision, and we have John Bones Jones. I say submission. How do you say Johnny wins this fight?
I'm thinking second, third round TKO.
Okay.
And I'm thinking the finish might not actually come from a standing elbow, but the flurry that leads up to the finish is definitely going to have something to do with some standing elbows in there, I think he's going to be looking to throw those standing elbows, possibly from the clinch or possibly from freestanding type of position when Chael tries to move into smother John.
Got you. Okay, cool. All right, well, we'll see how everything works out. Thanks again, Tommy. This has been another episode of MMA in the War Room. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and watch UFC 159. As always, don't accept mediocrity and be steadfast in the war against ignorance. This is War Room Sports, and I'll see you chumps on top.
Take it easy. Thanks a lot.
It's the War Room with 5 nights at the round table, 5 Philly